Welcome to the Digital Maddy Show. This is a platform where I share my knowledge on video creation, how to generate organic traffic, and how to make sales through video making. I also invite many influencers and digital marketers on the show and ask amazing questions to extract their secrets of business. Let's get started with your host. Hi, my name is Mithyl and I'm a YouTube and video creation coach, and I help aspiring video influencers to generate organic traffic and make sales through video making. Today we have an amazing guest on our show. She is an author and she's going to share all her secrets of how to create an idea to write a book, how to write the book, and self-editing tips. So let's get started. She is already into the studio. So let's welcome on the show Stacy. Let me introduce herself. She is a fiction author of mysteries, chick lit, young adult, and children books, a freelance development editor working with fiction and non-fiction authors, and the creator of online course Book Editing Blueprint. That's a step-by-step plan to making your novels publishable. She is also the founder of Shortcuts for Writers, and her goal is to simplify the editing process so authors can save time and money. She runs the Shortcuts for Writer Editing Made Simple Facebook group. So you can check that link out also, which has more than 1,000 members. And over the years, she has written more than 3,000 articles for newspapers, health, and wellness publications. So let's welcome Stacy once again to our group.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Most welcome. So Stacy, let me ask you one of my favorite questions. Can you share one of your favorite quote or a line that inspires you on a daily basis?
I've always been inspired by the Eleanor Roosevelt quote, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent, because I think as a writer, you open yourself up to a lot of criticism and feedback and rejection, and you have to develop a really thick skin. So that was something that always helped me to remind myself when I would get a rejection or would see a review on Amazon that you get that sting of, oh no, somebody didn't connect with what I was trying to say, or they didn't like it. You just have to remind yourself that, like she said, you have control over how you take this rejection and take this feedback, and don't question your skills and talent. It's no one book is going to appeal to every reader, and it was just something that I think it's valuable for all writers to remember, and for anyone to remember.
Absolutely. So we are always under the scanner or below the microscope, and the critics are all around us, and we all have to welcome the critics, but keeping our mindset strong so that it does not affect us and does not affect the work that we are doing for the future prospect. Great. So Stacy, can you share some of your backstory to us?
Yep. So I've been writing since I was a child. I wrote my first story in third grade. I wrote my first novel when I was 16, and it was published when I was 18 after I won a competition for teenage writers. Then after college, I was a newspaper reporter for several years, eventually publishing more books. I married with 2 kids, and currently, in addition to writing, I'm also a freelance developmental editor and teach online writing classes. So I think just had a journey that has really evolved, but it's always involved writing in some way.
Awesome. Great. So today's going to be fun because I'm going to ask you a lot of questions and extract a lot of secrets of how to become an author and everything which revolves around it. So Stacy, can you tell me how can you develop an idea for a book?
I think ideas are all around you. So I always recommend writing about something that interests you. If take a look at what you like to read, what kinds of books are you drawn to? That's probably a good place to start with your first novel or your first book, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. So for me, I've gotten ideas from jobs I've had, from places I've been. My first mystery novel, 25 years ago today, was inspired by my days of working at a newspaper. I used to compile the 25 years ago today column for the microfilm. And one day I just had the thought, what if editorial assistant who had the same job was researching the 25 years ago today column and came across an old murder and was obsessed with solving it. And then I just developed this idea into a book. And my mystery novel Sink or Swim came about because of the reality TV show craze. At the time, shows like Survivor and Big Brother were becoming very popular. And I thought, well, everybody focuses on the winner of the show. What about the runner-up? And what about if after lose, she only wanted to go on the show because of she wanted to see if she could win some money to start a business, and she didn't. So she goes back to her normal life. She's not interested in being a celebrity or anything like that. And then what if she gets a stalker who goes into withdrawal because he can no longer see her on a TV screen? So then the next step is, once you have this idea, think of a character to go with it. Who would be in this situation? Or what would make somebody go on a reality TV show? And how would they handle being in this situation, or what would prompt somebody who came across this unsolved murder? I mean, some people would just skip right over it, but what would prompt somebody to actually become obsessed with it and to try to solve it? And then develop an outline and try to come up with a beginning and middle and end, so you know where the story's going. And it might evolve as you're writing, but just to try to keep yourself on track.
Cool. So Stacy, basically the idea that you give right now of how to start with a book, like an idea, is I think similar to people who create content. They also search for ideas which are all around us, or it tries to attract, or it tries to motivate us to do it. Something similar like that?
Yeah, definitely. And because I come from a newspaper background, so I think I would get ideas for newspaper articles and feature articles the same way that I would get ideas for books. So the ideas are all around you. Even some authors are inspired by something they read in the newspaper or something they see on the news, that little a court case or something. Anything could just trigger an idea. So, and then you pursue it in the same way, researching it and just trying to develop it. And just like you're creating any piece of content, any kind of piece of content, know who your target audience is and who you're ultimately writing this for.
Awesome. So since we all know about the success of great authors, so surely the success is also because of the mistakes that they have created. So Stacy, can you throw some light on the common mistakes that beginner writers make?
I think a lot of beginner writers, they tend to, when they ultimately hire an editor after they've written their first draft really isn't strong enough to invest a lot of money in. And they think, a lot of beginner writers think that editing just means that the editor's going to go through it, give them some suggestions, minor suggestions, and then they'll fix it, and then that's it. It's ready to either publish or to submit to an agent. And unfortunately, that's not the case. Most writers are making a lot of it's very common mistakes. You shouldn't feel badly if they're making these mistakes, because every writer makes them. Things like, for a novel, not getting deep enough into your character's point of view, hopping heads. So you're in one paragraph, you're in one character's point of view, a few paragraphs later, you're in another character's point of view. Telling rather than showing. So just having stopping the story with a lot of information dumps or backstory, having really static descriptions with a lot of passive words like was and were, rather than weaving it into the story. And having your writing be more active. I see a lot of authors, beginner authors, overusing a lot of words, such as one of the biggest words is look. I've seen that word in so many manuscripts over and over again, like 350 times in a 250 page book. That's how often many writers are using these words. And there's also a whole list of other words like walk, smile, took, turn, take. So you really want to pay attention to your word choice. I mean, not necessarily in the first draft, because you just want to get the story down without having that internal editor, criticizing every word you write. But once you have the draft, you really need to go through it before you hire an editor, because hiring an editor, it can be hundreds of dollars, and most likely you're going to need multiple rounds of editing. So just bear that in mind. That's not just it's not just a one-time edit and you're ready to publish. It could be 5 rounds of editing, 6 rounds of editing. So the more you can learn on your own how to correct these mistakes, the better off you'll be, because you can learn how to do those earlier rounds of editing yourself. So I think that's a big mistake that authors make. It's just not realizing how important it is to learn how to self-edit, and just sending off their manuscript to an editor, or to a freelance editor, or to an agent before it's ready, because most likely there's still quite a bit of work that needs to be done.
So since you're saying that over a period of time with the experience, you need to learn self-editing. So can you share a few of the tips for self-editing?
Like for example, for a novel, if you have a character, a protagonist, make sure that you give that character a character arc, whereas you know what they want, like what their goal is, and then also what they really need. Sometimes that isn't the same thing. And how does that character grow throughout the course of the book? How does that character change by the end? Sometimes this is called the hero's journey. Like what is your character's journey, and why are they involved in this situation? Why are they making the choices that they're making? You just really think that through, because a lot of times it's not clear to the reader, and you want to make your character really come alive, and that means they'll have positive qualities, and then they also have flaws, because nobody wants to read about a perfect character, because we're not perfect, nobody's perfect. So just really get to know your character. That's an important first step. And then for a novel, also just think in terms of obstacles. And it can be hard because you have this attachment to this character and you want things to go well for them, but that doesn't make for exciting reading. You want to put obstacles in your character's path, and a lot of middles tend to sag and fall flat because the story isn't really building toward a climax. It's just more a series of events strung together, and you want to make sure that you have enough obstacles, you have enough conflict. Obviously varies depending on the genre you're writing. A romance novel or a historical novel, it's going to be totally different kind of conflict than an action-packed thriller, but there still needs to be some level of conflict. And then many authors fall short on the climax, where they tend to resolve things way too easily, way too quickly, and you really need to let that develop. So those are some of the things that an editor, some of the bigger things, structural things that an editor would look at. And then there's also the smaller things where you look at a scene-by-scene basis of, did you get into your character's head enough? Did you describe the setting enough? Is it active enough? Your word choice, is it active rather than passive? Can it be tightened? How vivid is it? So there's just a whole list of things that writers should be aware of so that they can learn to think more like an editor.
Wow, Stacy, you just gave almost all your secrets. which if used in the right way, anybody can become an author and can be a bestseller.
That's a little harder than that, but
Thank you. So, since we have an idea, we got to learn about the mistakes and few of the self-editing tips also. Stacy, can you share about self-publishing and book promotion?
yeah, so there are a couple different avenues for publishing. There's the traditional route, which is where you query an agent, and ultimately, if you had an agent, they would submit to publishers. There's also self-publishing, and that's something that has really grown a lot and become a popular option over the last several years because of ebooks, Kindle, Nook. Now it's very easy to get your book out there to readers. Amazon has a program called Kindle Direct Publishing where you can upload an ebook. Other publishers such as Barnes & Noble, Kobo have that also. There's distributors such as Drafted Digital or Smashwords, and they will distribute your ebook for you. And it's also relatively easy to get a print-on-demand print version of your book also. So where you would most likely need to hire a formatter to help you design it, to design the interior and the spine and all of that. But then ultimately you could have a print version of your book also. And then it's not like the old days where you would have to pay hundreds, thousands of dollars to get all these print books up front and ship them out yourself. Now it's print on demand. So if somebody buys your book on Amazon, they can just order directly through them, and the book will come straight from the publisher. So there's no cost to you. So it's a really great option. For a lot of writers, it's something that really wasn't available to me when I first started. Back then, there really wasn't another route other than the traditional route. And there's pros and cons to each, but either way, book promotion and marketing is an important part of the process. So some authors just think once they hit publish on Amazon, then that's it. A lot of readers will instantly discover their book, but unfortunately there is a lot of hard work involved in the promotional end. Most authors have websites, they on social media, they might have blogs, YouTube channels, podcasts, and they just try to get their work out there as much as possible. You want to an important part when you publish a book is to get reviews, send your book out to reviewers such as book bloggers. And because just think about when you make a purchase on a website like Amazon, you're probably looking at the reviews, and if there's a choice between a few similar items or books, you're going to go for the one that has 50 4- and 5-star reviews rather than the one that has no reviews, or maybe 2-star reviews or something like that. So again, the quality of your product, of your cover is really important. So you don't want to self-publish until you know that you have a strong product, and it's a lot easier to sell a book that has been well received and that has had a lot of reviews, that has an attractive cover, that doesn't have a lot of typos inside it, because reviewers will note that in their reviews. They can tell if a book hasn't been well edited. So getting reviews is a big step. And then there's ad sites. You can pay for ads. So you can even advertise on Amazon itself. Some authors do Facebook ads. So it's a lot of different methods you can try, and there's many Facebook groups out there on book promotion, or where authors can do newsletter swaps. For example, if you have a newsletter, they can promote each other's book in their newsletters. It's just a lot of outside the box thinking, a lot of networking, and just educating yourself on the different methods of book promotion that are out there.
Wow, it's like a value bomb. Thank you so much, Stacey. So since you have seen the journey from the standard publishing your own book to now the complete modern way of doing it, so I think you can be one of the best mentors to help people in writing their own books. So all the people who are listening to this particular episode, if they want to know more and learn more from you, is there a way where they can connect with you?
Yep, definitely. So I have a couple of websites for my general author website, stacyjuba.com. And then I also have a website just for writers called shortcutsforwriters.com. And on that, I talk about my course, book editing blueprint, step-by-step plan to making your novel publishable. And I'll also be developing some other courses in the future. And then my editing services. And I have a blog where I have a lot of helpful tips for writers. I actually started this new feature called Behind the Rewrite, where I have authors, they'll show before and after scenes from their books and with some explanation of why they made the rewrites that they did. So I think that's very insightful for authors to see, new authors to read. I have a YouTube channel which where I do some videos with tips also. So all those links are on the Shortcuts for Writers website. And then I have a free 5-day line editing class that they can sign up for, and that's in the menu of the website. And if you sign up for that, then you'll get some email lessons delivered to your inbox for several days. And I've had a lot of positive feedback on that, where many writers have said that it's really helped them to think about their word choice and their sentence structure in a new way. And then I also have a group on Facebook called the Shortcuts for Writers Editing Made Simple group. As of right now, we have over 1,100 members from all over the world, from beginner writers to multi-published, best-selling authors. So it's a great, positive environment where you can really learn about the craft of writing and editing. We have a units section where there's a section on writing your blurb. There's a section where you can post your homework for the line editing class. A section where we archive blog posts and videos, and we have guest speakers come in and do different topics such as copyrights and creativity and that kind of thing. So so definitely check out shortcutsforwriters.com and feel free to message me or send me an email. Definitely.
Awesome. So all the people who are listening to this episode, you can find all the links in the description or also in the blog. So just check that out and learn more and start becoming an author. Awesome. So Stacy, thank you so much for being on the show and giving awesome values. So before we end this episode, would you like to say something to our viewers?
If you're interested in writing, I mean, it's definitely to get started. And again, remember that quote, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Remember, even if you get criticism, if you send your story to friends or beta readers or editors, or you take a class and you realize you have a lot of work to do, just remember that every writer has gone through this. You're not alone. And if it's something that you want badly enough, if you want writing to be something that where it's not just a hobby, it's you want to get published and you want to get your work out there to readers, then just remember all writers have gone through this. If they can do it, you can do it also.
Cool.
So hang in there.
Awesome. Thank you, Stacy, for being on this show and giving us so much value.
Oh, thank you for having me. Happy to do it.
Most welcome. So I've just listened to the Digital Maddy Show with your host, Mithyl, and we have an awesome guest, Stacy, who just gave lots of values on how to become an author and how to publish your own book. Great. Thank you so much, Stacy, once again for coming on our show. So if you're listening to this particular video on YouTube, you can subscribe to my channel. And if you're listening to my podcast, you can subscribe to my podcast too. Thank you so much, Stacy, once again for being on the show.
Oh, thank you.
Most welcome.